All right. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Let me see. Okay. Okay, I see people are joining. Can you let me know if the audio is all right or if there are any issues? I have a fan behind me. I hope it's not making too much noise. All right. Somebody says we can hear us. Cool. Okay, this is nice. All right, audio's okay. It's good. Let's go. Sounds fine to me. All right, cool. All right, let me check. Let me check here real quick. Huh. All right, let's give it a minute for people to join. Although I see already there's 30 people here, which is good. All right, it is a Monday, so that's usually not the best day to stream, but yeah, I was out last week, so I decided to move the stream to today, so that it also doesn't become too late. You know, okay, I see more people joining. We're at 40. The numbers keep going up. Okay, I think at this point we can, well, we can just start and yeah, cool. All right. So welcome to the OPR stream. I think this is already stream number 9. Yeah, kind of crazy. Time really flies. I've been doing this for 9 months. Yeah, cool. It's cool to see how like the stream progress and how it's changing and yeah, how it's evolving. Yeah. All right, excited. Okay, so I think today might be maybe a slightly shorter stream. Not sure. We don't have a ton of stuff to like announce. Well, compared to last month where we had like a ton of stuff. So, all right, let's just get into it. Okay, so what do we got today? So number one, oh, okay, lore update. All right, that's cool. So yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time. We've been working at it for a very long time. But finally, the lore for all the armies in the games has been updated. So, as many as you know, OPR is based off this original lore that I had created like a long time ago. But at some point when we switched to the PDFs and Patreon and whatever, we kind of had to like just fill in the lore real quick. So a lot of the lore that we had in the games was kind of like temporary and just kind of like placeholder, and a lot of it was very just generic, saying like, hey, like it was more of a way just for you to kind of get like what sort of models you can use for which army, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff there that wasn't really final, but finally now the lore is out. So if you go to Army Forge right now, you can see we actually updated the interface, and I will talk about that. But when you select an army, it will actually like show you, a short snippet of the lore of the army, and then you can click on read more, and then you will see like the full lore intro for each army. All of the armies have been updated except for I think, well, Feudal Guard, because it's not ours, and that army is anyways going to be shifted at some point. I think the gangs and the clans lore has not been updated yet. That's the only thing remaining, but everything else has already been updated. So you can actually go check it out right now and read up on the lore of the games. We are also going to update the rulebooks with like a little army lore intro page to kind of like get people pumped and also to understand that like there is lore to the games, but don't worry, like there is our plan is to generally keep lore and rules separate, so that rules can remain free, and whatever lore we want to do that is paid. You don't kind of like we don't want to lock rules behind a lore paywall, if that makes sense. So we're basically like decoupling the two things. Whilst there will be like one page with like a little lore intro in the rulebooks, the main lore will be separate. So also like if you get the rulebooks, you don't have to always just go through like 30 pages of lore before you can get to the actual rules, which is a small gripe of mine with many rulebooks. It's a rulebook; it's about the rules, but whatever. Yeah, and every week we are now doing, so if you don't want to go through all the armies and scroll through everything, you kind of want to get the to get all of the new lore in small digestible pieces. Every week we are doing a lore highlight post on our website where we basically highlight the lore of 4 different armies. Usually we try to make sure that the 4 armies that are being presented are kind of like connected, so you kind of understand like how the various armies interact with each other and what their lore is. Yeah, very cool stuff. Actually, I'm going to make one of those posts after this the stream. And yeah, very exciting. Very excited to. I've been talking about the big lore push that's coming for a long time, and the first part of it was kind of like showing off a little bit of the art that we've been working on, and now we have the army book lore. And the next step essentially is going to be the short stories, which I'll talk about a bit later, and then the actual like world books, and then after that the actual faction books. So like a lot of lore is coming, and this is like your first teaser at how these worlds are shaped and what they look like. And actually, like what I really like is, so the way that the lore is written. There is an established lore and there's established canon and stuff like that, but the lore is written in such a way that it's open for you to kind of like insert your own armies and stories, relatively in an easy way, and maintain a canon. So already now with this new army lore updated, you can go check it out, and take your army and see like, okay, how can the lore of my army fit the official canon? um, how can the battles that we have actually reflect the canon of the story, and the very cool stuff. Yeah, I'm excited about it. But okay, the thing that I want to talk about a bit more right now is the Army Forge update, which serves to highlight the lore, but actually there's a couple other things that we've done as well. So yeah, let's get into that. So Army Forge update. So all right, number one, when you open the Army Forge app, now instead of going through like that splash screen that was just one more click, we remove the splash screen, so you end up directly here. You have some save lists at the top, so for quick access. By the way, of course, this is all work in progress. Like we're going to keep enhancing this and keep giving you more options and stuff as we go. But right now, we're kind of like streamlining the access. So when you open the app, you go straight here, so you can immediately select the game system. You don't have to go through another page first, and you can see like your top saved lists, which is very cool. Makes it easier to use. Then once you select a game and you select an army, you will end up on the new army screen. So what does the new army screen have? So well, first off, for all the armies where we already have official art, there's a beautiful banner like showcasing the army. Of course, the army icon, and then the create list button. That's the regular Army Forge usage that you're used to, right? So if you want to create your list or generate a list or whatever you want, you just create a list, boom, click there, and it's easy to do. On the left, you can now actually see the PDF button. So a lot of people, when we switched to the new website, we put all the PDFs in Army Forge, and unfortunately for the way the interface was designed, it was kind of like small and hard to find, and so a lot of people thought like we stopped having PDFs and people want to print them and stuff like that. But no, the PDFs are still here, and so we have now put them here on the front, so they're easier to find and easier to spot. And then okay, if you go a bit down, you can see that here you can start reading the lore of the army. So first you have like 2 little paragraphs, kind of like introducing the army as a whole and like what they're about and what they look like, maybe a little bit what they play like. And then there's a little read more button, and when you click that, it expands, and you have the actual full lore. Below that, we actually now have a preview of the army. So another thing that we got a lot of comments about is like, well, like a lot of people wanted to check out an army or check out a unit real quick without having to go and create a list and add the units and stuff like that. So right below the lore section, if you just scroll down, um, well, you will have a sort of, I guess, like a sort of army preview. So at the top you have all of this army special rules, so you can quickly check out what the specific special rules for this army are. And then below that you will have all of the units, so already displayed with their points and whatever. And if you click on them, then a panel will open up that will show you like more info. So you can see all the weapons a little bit more closely. In this case, this hero has like spells, so you can see the spell list. You can see the upgrades and stuff like that. And yeah, so this is a really cool way for you to quickly check out a unit, check out an upgrade. Maybe fantasize a little bit about your army before actually going into building it. And it's also a way for people that don't really want to use the PDFs to have a full overview of the army without having to go into the army building part, right? Yeah, this is really cool. I'm hoping that as things progress, as the games get bigger, more models get made, more art is made, more lore is released, and stuff like that. I'm actually hoping that we will be able to one day update this into an even cooler view where maybe like you click on a unit and then you can see like some cool art of it and maybe like a little lore snippet of the unit. Maybe you have like the actual models there. Maybe you could imagine you could click a link and go straight to the store page. That would also be really cool. So yeah, as always, like everything is evolving. Very cool. And yeah, these are the first steps towards emphasizing the lore of our games and the uniqueness of the armies. So yeah, very cool. Okay, what else we got? Army Forge Studio. So during the last stream, I talked extensively about Army Forge Studio. At the time, it was like a super, let's say, kind of like closed, soft launch beta thing that we had done, and it was just like there was like a channel on Discord where we kind of like talking about it with a couple of people. But the Army Forge Studio basically is now it's released in full. It continues to have the current limitation of the armies being auto-deleted within, I think it's 60 minutes. This is, again, because of legal reasons. We are still working with the lawyers to get it all figured out, making sure everything's all right. But the Army Forge Studio is fully functional. If you're a patron, go check it out. It's in the tier 1 post. There's a link to it. You can go in there, make an account, connect to your Patreon, and you can start building an army. We also have on Discord a specific channel talking about the where people are a specific channel to talk about Army Forge Studio in general, and there's a specific channel for people to share their armies. So if you want to go there and chit chat about army design and stuff like that with other people, go there and check it out. And yeah, very cool to see it progress. Some people had asked, like, oh, like, what happened to the old app and that we had, and like, what about the functionality of that versus this? Well, the old app is gone because it was outdated, and it didn't have rules that didn't have the new updated rules for V 2.50, and it also the interface was outdated. You couldn't do upgrade packages and stuff like that. But functionality wise, Army Forge Studio is all of that plus more. So actually, if you think about it, the old app was kind of the same as Army Forge Studio with the limitation that once you close the window, the army was gone. So nothing really changed there in a sense for now. But yeah, very exciting to see so many people already build their own armies and share them and see their creations. And I'm looking forward to seeing the final full release where the armies are actually available for everyone to check out. Like I said, due to concerns with like copyrights and trademarks and whatever, we're currently working with lawyers to to make sure that this is all solid, so that well, we can actually have it online, and everybody can play with it, and there are no issues for us or for you as the users. um, but yeah, very very exciting stuff. By the way, I see that there are people posting some questions in the comments. I will maybe answer a couple here and there, but generally speaking, um, before each stream we send out a sort of like Google form thing where you can go and post all of your questions. So, if you have any bigger questions, make sure to post them there. I will, of course, do a Q&A at the end of this, and maybe I'll answer a couple of questions here and there. But, if you don't see me answering your questions, well, because I'm busy, actually doing the presentation. Um, but yeah, it's just because I saw this question. Is there an official map of the world? Yes, there are official maps, but they are not released yet. But I will talk about that in a minute. Okay, and then okay. Well, 1 second before we go into this. One quick thing. So during the last stream, I had spoken about third edition. I think it wouldn't make sense for me to mention it here, just because people are interested in, and of course, still working on third edition. Still don't have an ETA. I'm hoping in a month or two. This is my current hope. Before the summer or by the summer, whatever. It's kind of summer here already, so I don't even know. But I don't really have any new news since last time. Make sure to check out the last stream where I talk extensively about like all the new rules changes that are coming. But yeah, excited about that as well. But well, once I have more info, I will actually let you know. Okay, cool. So next up, all right, let's talk about the world books. So, like I was mentioning before, well, you now have all of the army lore in Army Forge, and then there will also be like a small intro to the general lore of each game at the beginning of the rulebooks. But what about more? So, what we are currently working on, amongst many other things, is the world books. So the world books are basically they're going to be around 35 pages, 30, 35, 40 pages. And they're basically books that kind of like take you through the origins and the history of each setting. So each setting gets its own book. These are going to be available for free on our website. And yeah, it's going to basically talk to you about like the setting as a whole, give you a small timeline, give you some maps of the world, talk about like the various places that there are, the types of biomes you can find, the types of, for Grimdark, the types of planets you can find, for fantasy, the type of planes you can find, talks about different parts of the setting, how does magic work, how do psychics work, how's communication, how does currency work, how does travel work, what are jump gates, lots of different things about the setting as a whole, to really give you a sense of how it all works, and especially to give you everything you need to be able to start creating your own things, right? So if you want to write your own stories, if you want to make your own games, you want to run your campaigns, you want to build your armies, you want to play the quest games, or whatever, right? We want to basically give you a full framework of the whole setting, for free, of course, so that whatever story you want to come up with, you can actually do it within the canon of the games, without having to worry that, like, oh, I don't know. Are all humans blue? I don't know. That's just a random thing. But yes, so yeah, that's what the world books are about. And so in each stream, I'm now showing like a little bit of the art that we're working on. And here you can see a piece of art from the Age of Fantasy world book. And yeah, very cool piece of art. Yeah, and I think this one is from which section? I think this is from this section, maybe talking about exploration interior. Whew. Sorry, I'm not 100% sure at this point. It might be, well, whatever. There's a whole section talking about like, okay, well, I don't want to go too much into it, but in the world of Age of Fantasy, there is this. The world of Age of Fantasy works on different planes, and you can travel through planes with void gates. And there is one place called the Common Plane, and in the Common Plane, you have a vast area called the Wilds, and in the Wilds basically is where you go explore, you can find relics, you can find portals to different dimensions and crazy stuff. And so I think this one might actually be from that section. And so it's like a bunch of explorers that have found some sort of cave in the wilds. And here you can see they found some dragon eggs, and in the back there is a dragon. So yeah, they're about to they're about to have a great time. So yeah, amazing art. The books are going to be filled with art, and you can expect more and more art and lore and stories and everything as OPR keeps developing. Cool. What else? Okay, still talking about lore. So, like I said, we have the army book intros. We're going to have the little lore snippet at the beginning of each book. We're going to have the world books talking about lore as a whole. And then also, we are going to have short stories. So, the idea is that in the future, we are going to be releasing 2 short stories every month. One for grimdark, one for fantasy. They'll probably be in early access on Patreon for a bit, and then they'll be out for free in public. And yeah, each short story is about I think 4 or 5 pages, and it kind of focuses on different characters, different factions, different stories. And here in this one, the prophesized hero is a story that focuses on a saurian chameleon, and uh, it's kind of a funny story. I don't really want to spoil anything. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say anything. Well, anyway, like I said, each short story focuses on different characters and different heroes and different units and different armies. And so here you can see, we have one about the Age of Fantasy Saurian chameleons. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. I think that's about it for lore for now. Like I said, I'm trying to not spend too much time on this stream today. So let's go for the next thing. Cool. Okay, so let's look at previews for the upcoming release now in May, in 3 days. So I'm gonna have to take a sip here. It's really hot here already in Portugal. Okay, so Human Empire. So a new army is coming to Age of Fantasy. We are very excited about this. It's the first time, I think. We had the Duchess of Vinci, but this is like the central, so to say, human army in the Age of Fantasy lore. And we think it's really important that we are actually making models for the core armies that are part of the lore, so you can really get into the story as a whole. As you can see, like everything now that we do is kind of pushing. We're always thinking about, like, how do we push the narrative, how do we push the story, how do we go further into the lore, how do we make our games more interesting, and also the choice of which armies we tackle next is a little bit based off that as well. So we want to tackle the main armies. Human Empire starting to release this month. The total release is going to be, it's actually quite a large army as well, kind of like the Ratman. So I think this full release is going to be around 6 months, 5 to 6 months. And you can expect like tons of units, tons of models, lots of awesome stuff. And yeah, the theme of the Empire basically is, well, you'll have to check out the lore, which now is available. But basically, like the Human Empire right now has, let's say, has kind of been saved by wizards at some point in the lore. And so now they are very much focused. I mean, they're not focused on wizards, but the wizards have a big presence within the Empire as a whole. So the wizards in the human faction have they follow 5 elements, so earth, wind, fire, water, and ether. And so each unit in each unit in the army is kind of aligned with a different element, and then each element comes with its own style, with its own shapes that it follows, with its own symbols, and also comes with its own little companion. So as we have seen with the Ratman, you know, we like the idea of, like, everybody really loved, and we really loved as well, putting all these little buddies, like these little rats, these little ratsies everywhere that kind of like do fun little stuff. And so we thought, yeah, this is a great idea. We're going to keep pushing it for new armies and also for previous armies, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a bit. And so yeah, each element also has a different animal associated with it, and so I'm going to talk a bit about this now. So what do you get in May? You get lots of minis. I think May has like 90 plus minis or something like that. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how it somehow always ends up that we end up making a ton of models. But okay, so what do you get? So first off, you get the captain. So your most, let's say, standard basic, central hero of the army. It's the Empire Captain. The Empire Captain comes with lots of options: uh, sword, spear, halberd, greatsword, axe, shield, double pistols, double uh, daggers. I think that might be it. Lots of options. Oh, by the way, whenever possible, with other armies and also here with the Human Empire, we will always provide male and female models. So every model that you see in this range comes with a male and a female option. So yeah, we have the captain on foot, lots of options, lots of weapons, and then we have the captain on a horse. Actually, the heroes. There's lots of heroes that for this army. I think every month has at least one, if not two, hero releases, which is also very cool. So yeah, we have the captain on foot, and then we have the captain on the horse. I think the captain on the horse comes with a lance, a sword, and a pistol as well. So yeah, different weapon options. Very cool. Um, okay, so that's the captain. Then we have the main core, standard, whatever unit of the army, which is the warriors. The warriors are aligned with the earth element, whose symbol is a little boar. So actually, if you look at the bottom left of this image, you can see that they have like a little combat piggy, well, a little combat boar with them, and everything is kind of like boar themed. So like you can actually see a sergeant which has like a boar on a shield, and also like one on the helmet. They have like a really cool big banner. They have a drummer. These models come with lots of options. I think they also come with swords, spears, halberds. They have the captain, the sergeant, the standard bearer. They have the piggy. Then they have the male versions. Then they have the female versions. As always, lots of stuff. So yeah, these are aligned with Earth, therefore piggies. Well, boars. Then we have the fanatics, which you can see on the right. Right now, I think in the rules they're called the Furious Mob, but they're basically being renamed. But the rules are the same. So on the right hand side, you can see them. These are kind of like, well, I don't want to say crazy, but well, they're fanatics, and they're aligned with the ether element. The ether symbol is a star, and the ether animal is a lynx. So actually, if you look at, well, kind of here, you can see that there's like a standard bearer, and on his shoulder, you can see that there's actually a lynx. Another cool unit, also comes with male and female models. Um, 5 combat poses. We have a musician with a gong, a banner bearer. We have a captain. All the cool stuff. And then finally, we have the Empire Knights, which you can see here at the top. Again, male, female models. I think these also all come with helmets that are closed and open. They come with swords. They come with lances. They come with a full command group. So captain, standard bearer, and musician. The musician has like a really cool horn. Oh, and they are aligned with the air element. So cavalry is kind of like always with the air element, and their symbol is sort of like diamond shape, kind of, and the eagle. So you can actually see like the symbology all over the place. And actually, I don't know if somewhere up here, the musician has an eagle on the shoulder. So yeah, very cool. yeah, this is a cool army. I'm happy to see how it's turning out. So I saw someone ask this, and I have seen some comments about it, so I want to talk about this, about the scale. So OPR, we one of the big struggles, let's say, that we've been having for, well, since the beginning, is always about scale, like making sure that we get a good scale, a scale that looks good, that prints well, that looks good on the table, that looks good in renders, that works with other games. And it's always a struggle because, especially now with the big 3D printing revolution, there are so many creators, so many different scales, so many different things. So we have been slowly over time, constantly evolving our scale and improving it. And especially, we have been listening to your feedback about printability. Since this is a 3D printing, first, digital first, project, company, whatever, that's really important for us. So some people have already noticed this, but the scale has slightly changed. The models actually are the same scale, like the same size as the sisters, but their heads are slightly bigger. Because one of the problems that we had with the Blessed Sisters was that the models were very cool, but the heads were really tiny because they were following slightly more realistic proportions, which, so here is one of the big struggles that we have, is like, there are things that look really good in a render, and you can see this all over the place with 3D printing models, where you will have models that look really, really good in render, have really crazy textures, really lots of details, really realistic proportions and stuff like that. And yes, they do look really amazing in a render, but they will not print well. They will break. Their ankles will snap. They will be hard to paint because the proportions are too small. If you want to make sure that they fit with the rest of the lines of other miniature makers, you have to either upscale them and then they look like giants, or you have to downscale them and then they're just super fragile. All of the texture work that looks really, really good in a render ends up just being like a blurry texture in actual printing. So yeah, so we are constantly adapting, constantly improving, and so with the Empire, you can actually see this. So the heads are a little bit bigger. The proportions of certain things like the swords or the banners or the spears or whatever are slightly thicker. And yes, when you look at it in a render, it does appear to be a little bit bulkier. It almost seems too bulky. But when you have it in hand, it, it it looks amazing. It's great. It's printable. It's really well printable. It's really thick. It's really nice. It's solid. It's easy to paint. It's very clean. Yeah. I think also, by the way, I want to put this out. The sisters are meant to be overly detailed, so to say. They are following a baroque style. So they are overly ornamented. That is just part of the style. Their shoulder pads have lots of ornaments. Their belts have lots of ornaments. Their weapons have ornaments. Everything is like, their backpacks are just full of ornaments. And whilst they look very cool, and this is meant to be their style, this is not what a standard army looks like. So I do understand that for some people, that kind of joined only after his sisters came out, they might think, although the Ratmen already were following this style that you're seeing here, so maybe they could have thought like, well, OPR makes like super highly, textured models or whatever. So yeah, that's not great. But yes, here you can see how we're doing things, how we're moving forward. I know in a render, maybe this is not as, incredibly looking as other models that have, that are made, that are designed for renders and not for the tabletop. But at the end of the day, we are making models for you to actually print, to actually paint, and to actually play with. So that's what we are going to focus on. Does it mean that maybe in a render they look slightly, bulky? Yes. Does it mean that in a render maybe they don't look super detailed? Yes. But once you actually have them, they're amazing. And at the end of the day, we want you to have amazing models. We don't want to sell you a render, right? We want you to get a model. So that's what we're focusing on. And yeah, so here with the Empire, you can see it. And that's also what we're going to keep focusing on with future armies. And I assume that if we ever go back and decide to redo, or I don't know, maybe in many years we'll be like, hey, I don't know, maybe in 10 years we'll be like, oh, let's go and redo the sisters. Then probably they will be adapted to the new style. Well, assuming that this is the style that we're going to keep having in 10 years. Who knows where we're going to be in 10 years? Okay, cool. So yeah, that's the first release of the Empire. Very excited to see people, print them and paint them and play with them. Cool. Okay. All right. Next up, Blessed Sisters. Okay, so this is actually a little sad, to be honest. This is the last release of the Blessed Sisters. We have finally hit the last month for the Blessed Sisters. They've been out. I think this is the 6th month as well. This was also a very big army. And yeah, it comes with lots of things as well, just kind of like kicking off big style. So what do you get this month? So number one, you're going to get the Celestials. So the Celestials are essentially an elite version of the regular warriors. An important thing that we have been talking about this since the beginning, but unfortunately the Celestials ended up coming all the way at the end. We know that some people have they don't really like the style that the regular warriors have, that they're fully robed. But this was always the intention that and they asked for like sisters with more exposed armors, but this was the intention that the regular warriors have these sort of robes over their armor, and the Celestials remove the robes to show that they're more elite and they actually have the exposed armor. So the Celestials were really cool. You can fully see the regular warriors armor, so to say, although it is also a little bit enhanced. And actually, if you want to play with these as your regular warriors, feel free to do that. There's nothing stopping you. They have all the same weapon options, so they all come with rifles. They all come with special weapons. They come with heavy weapons. They come with a what else? They come with a sergeant, the medic, the standard bearer. Lots of options. The megaphone sister, and yeah. So yeah, you can see them here. Lots of options. Lots of detail. They're very cool. So yeah, this is one of the units. This is a huge unit again. I think it's like 10 poses plus different head options with cover, without cover, tons of models. Maybe it's like 20 models, more than 20 models at this point, I suppose. 5. Wait, I want to double check this just because it's kind of crazy how many models you get this month. I think maybe the where are they? Celestials. Yeah, I see there's like 21 combined versions. Crazy. Okay, anyway, so you're going to get the Celestials. Very cool. Then you're going to get, as your hero, you're going to get the Destroyer Sister Captain. The Destroyer Sister Superior. The Destroyer Superior, that's what she's called. Which is a really cool, a really cool hero version of the Destroyers. What are the Destroyers? The Destroyers are basically sisters in heavier armor. So they have a bigger, bulkier, heavier armor. They have like bigger like shoulder pads, and they also carry like heavy weapons. So you're going to get a captain, and then of course, let me move to the next slide. You're going to get the actual destroyer. So you can see them here in the middle. The destroyers also come with lots of options. They come with what do they come? They come with dual claws. They come with storm rifles and melee weapons. And for the melee weapons, I think you have a chainsaw, you have an energy fist, you have a sword. Then, like I said, you have the claws. Oh, you have a mace. They also come with an option for a shield. And they also have like an additional special one that comes, like a special pose that comes with a heavy flamethrower and a heavy fusion rifle. And I'm not sure if they also come with a heavy machine gun. I don't see it here in the screenshot, so maybe not. But yes, lots of options, really cool models. They come with helmets, without helmets, as usual. Yeah, very cool models. Yeah, very cool also to finally see like a bulky, heavy sisters unit at the end, because the sisters, generally speaking, are kind of like, they are armored, but they're kind of like lightlier armored, um, for being, fully armored models. But listen, whatever. Let's go to the real deal. So, bam, the big guys. So, what are you also going to get in this release? So, you're going to get the Assault Walker, which you can see on the right, and you're going to get the Support Walker, which you can see on the left. And then you're also going to get, due to popular demand, this was not originally the plans, but people have asked about it, so we deliver. We have also made a special version of the Exosuit Sisters, and we made a hero version, so an Exosuit Superior. So what do you get here? The walkers, well, they come in two different styles and two different poses. So the assault version and the support version. They come with lots of options. I know here in this screenshot you cannot see it, but they come with an open cockpit and the exposed sister. But they also have a closed cockpit version. Each one of them, of course, has a different style of closed cockpit. They come with lots of options. I think they come with energy fists, energy claws. They come with flails. They come with chainsaw arms. They come with attached heavy weapons. I think you get a heavy flamer. I think you get a heavy machine gun. Yeah, lots of stuff, lots of options, and of course everything can be swapped left or right. So if you want to do different combos, if you want to do like a flail and a flail and a fist or whatever, you can do that. So lots of options, really amazing models. And then in the middle here, you can see the Exosuit Superior. Also, really cool model. Also comes with an exposed sister or with a closed cockpit. She has a really cool big greatsword. I think on the right arm, she can mount a grenade launcher. She can mount a storm rifle. On the left arm, you can mount a machine gun. And I think a flamer. I think maybe also a fusion. Again, lots of options. Yeah, very cool. And with this, we basically end the Blessed Sisters in style. But there is still more things coming for the Blessed Sisters. Don't worry. So, what are you still going to get? So, we are currently working on terrain for the Blessed Sisters. So, that is being worked on. That is hopefully going to be released within the next couple of months. We are working on a loyalty reward for them that is also going to come up in a couple of months. You can expect a really huge Titan-sized model. And then, so going back to harking back to the conversation we had before about the buddies. So, like I said, we are now going to go back to previous armies and add buddies to them. And you're also going to get buddies for the Blessed Sisters. Of course, completely free. If you already own the models and you're not supporting on Patreon right now anymore or whatever, you're still going to get them. Don't worry, they're free models. They're just added to your existing units. And unfortunately, actually, I don't have any pictures of them here in these slides. But the buddies are basically these sort of they're sort of like these little sisters. They're kind of like, well, we don't really want to reveal exactly what they are, but they're kind of like these little sisters in robes. Um, and they kind of help around and they do little funny things. So I think there is one that's like hanging off of like a motorcycle. There's one with a little jetpack that goes with the jetpack sisters. There's one with like a book. There's one with like a skull. There's one hanging off of like a tank cannon. So yeah, lots of actually really cool little poses, cool little details. And yeah, I think it's actually really cool for me to see how, for me at least, it kind of changes the vibe of the armies a little bit and the games. Because whilst yes, these are war games and they deal with war and deal with like a lot of heavy themes as well. I don't want our games to be just like super, despite the name, I don't want them to just be super grim and dark and just war and bloody. I want there to be some levity and some fun and at the end of the day, like these are fantasy settings and fantasy scenarios and you should have fun with them and so yeah, adding all of the buddies is a really cool detail. Okay, cool. All right, moving on to the next thing, which is the legendary preview for May. So this is actually the first new Alien Hives model that you are getting. So this is a completely new model in the range. This is the Devourer Titan. So huge model, massive model. So if you have the Winged Titan, it's the size of a Winged Titan, just that instead of like being wrapped around like a rock with wings, this guy has like a little base. Really huge, has a beautiful tail with like this big weird spike thing at the end. It's a Devourer, so it comes with lots of different tongues that ready to grab and devour enemies. Um, and yeah, very cool, very big model. I saw somebody ask about like, oh, are all the new Alien Hive models going to come with these like terrain bases? No, they are not. This is a Titan, a legendary, and legendaries always come with a sort of base, because the idea of the legendary models is that yes, you can use them in games and you can play with them, but truly they're so huge, they're almost more like collection items. Like you can collect them and print them and paint them and put them in display, and yes, you can play with them every now and then, but I would not bring, a legendary Titan huge model to a regular match. Um, yeah, and okay, what else? Well, okay, let me already talk about this now. Sure, since we've been talking about buddies. So we are also going to add buddies to the Alien Hives. So if you already have the models, or if you remember, in the Alien Hives we have these swarms which come like with these cute little. They're kind of like, I don't know what to call them. They're sort of like a hybrid insectoid critter type of thing. They have like a split jaw, like the ravenous beast and stuff like that. And yeah, and so we are going to take those and we are adding them to the models. Unfortunately, again, I don't have screenshots here, but we're adding them to existing models. Again, if you already own the models, you are getting the buddies for free. So you can expect, to have like little buddies, crawling on like shoulders or wrapped around somebody's leg, or hanging off somewhere and being silly and being cute. So yeah, buddies are coming to all the armies. I'm not sure when. So right now we have focused. We're currently focused on the release of um, the Empire. We are focusing on the release of the new Alien Hives, and we're also actually starting slowly to prepare the next army. So I'm not sure when other previous armies are going to get buddies. I hope, as always, I hope sooner rather than later. But yes, they are coming, but not that soon. So, yeah, cool. All right, so I think this is it for the previews for May. Okay, we're actually quite good on time, so we can move on to the concept art. Oh wait, sorry. I see some questions that I actually want to answer. Uh, Okay, so this was a question. Can you print the buddies separate and attach them to pre-existing models? So they're going to come. So it depends, and they're going to come in different formats. So the ones from the sisters, some of them are part of the pose. So for example, there is a pose like I was saying before, which is like a one of the motorcycle sisters has a buddy on the back. This will basically be an additional pose, so you can print it with or without. Don't worry, we're not removing the old option without the buddy. We also understand that not everybody wants the buddies. That's totally fine. And then it also comes with lots of buddies that are standalone. So you can either mount them on small 20 mil or 25 mil bases and bring them around, or you can mount them on a base with a hero, for example, or you could place them on a vehicle, stuff like that. So they do come standalone. For the Alien Hives, same thing. So some of the poses are getting a buddy on top of them that is like integrated in the pose. So you can print with or without the buddy. And we're also going to provide a couple of small standalone buddies for you to kind of like place around. I'm not exactly sure how the standalone ones are going to be released. I think we're probably just going to add them for free to the scatter terrain pack, like we did for the Robot Legions. They also have like little buddies that are part of the scatter terrain. So yeah. And I see somebody ask, you mentioned the next sci-fi army. I know it's early as Alien Hive hasn't even started, but are you ready to reveal it yet? So So on the 25th of the month, there is going to be the roadmap, and I think this roadmap is where we're going to reveal the next army, because the Alien Hives is going to be a shorter release because it's an army that is being re-released. And I know that not everybody's super happy about the re-release of an existing army, even though it comes with lots of enhancements, and we're going to talk about it later. Still, I know some people are not super happy about that, so it's going to be a shorter 3-month release, which actually means each release is doubled, so you're gonna get a ton of models for those 3 months. It's kind of crazy. And so yeah, because this is a shorter release, at the end of this month, we're also already going to reveal the next army. Right now, if you are on Discord in the Patreon chat channel, I've been dropping some hints here and there. I'm going to keep dropping hints this month. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it's going to be very cool. I know a lot of people are very excited about this army. Okay, all right, let's move on to concepts. So, all right, so now we're looking at concepts for this is for June. This is for the June release. So these are pre-concepts, whatever. They're concept art. So what are we gonna get for the Empire? So first off, you're going to get the general. So in the Empire you have various heroes, and I suppose like the two main, I don't know, the two big heroes, whatever, are the captain and the general. Like I was saying before, the Empire has this thing with like the representation of the 5 elements. The captain is part of the earth element, actually, so it's part of it's boar themed, so to say. But the general, being the general, actually follows represents all elements. So you can actually see. So they have there's like an eagle for air on one shoulder. There's a boar for earth on another shoulder. I think in the center there's a star for ether. Then I think they carry a shield, which you cannot see here, but there's a shield which is like water themed, and then the sword which is fire themed. So basically, the general represents all 5 elements, and then also like in the cape, they have all elements. Very very cool model. Lots of weapon options, left, right, as usual. Male, female version as well. Yeah, this one's gonna be very cool. Then okay, then we have another hero. Like I said, I think each month includes 2 heroes for the Empire, which is very cool. Okay, then we have the standard bearer. Standard bearer, well, brings the army standard. This is kind of like a really classic, fantasy army thing that we are bringing with the new armies. We already got an army standard bearer for the Ratman in the last release that was this month. And we are going to bring it in the Human Empire. And actually, we do plan on going back to older armies and eventually providing army standard bearers for those armies, as well as additional options. But I'll talk more about that once it actually happens. So the army standard bearer, basically, it's a hero with like a big, army standard, and actually the army standard represents all 5 elements as well. So it has like these hanging, like what do you call them? Whatever. It has like these hanging pieces that show each element. And actually, here in the pre-concept, you don't see it that well, but it actually has different things of each element in it. I think like the final one has like an octopus arm for water. It has the lizard for fire. I think maybe it has an eagle head at the top for air. Whatever, lots of stuff. Really cool other hero. Then we have then we have the marksman. Oof, really cool unit. I really love the design. I was just checking out the work in progress of the 3D model. They look very cool. So the marksmen, they come with lots of options. They have cool helmets, which have like these sort of like eye visors. As always, male, female versions provided. They come with rifles. They come with crossbows, so you can switch between rifles and crossbows. And then the hero, so it also comes with a standard bearer, musician, and a sergeant. And the sergeant has more options. So the sergeant also gets, I think, dual pistols, The sergeant also gets, I think, a special sword. The sergeant also gets a sniper rifle. The sergeant also gets a Gatling rifle. Lots of options. Yeah. I think I'm not forgetting anything. Very cool. They have lots of stuff here. Oh, I see a question which maybe I should have actually mentioned before. Somebody said, "Is there a plan to do a sci-fi survey?" I assume for the next army. Actually, no. We have already decided the army based on what we were excited about and what we already know that fans are already very excited about. So we just decided to pick an army as we want. I also want to remind everyone that like we used to do this thing where we asked people to pick what the next army is, but we're not doing that anymore. We are now doing surveys every now and then, showcasing some art to get feedback, but we reserve the right to choose what army we work on next. Because from a production standpoint, and also just like from a, we're enjoying our work standpoint, it's we have to be the ones that work on it, so we should choose something that works for us, that we're happy to work on, and not just follow, the pressures of a vote. Yeah. Anyway, so marksman, very cool. Rifles, crossbows, lots of options for a sergeant. Of course, there's going to be a buddy, which is like a salamander. I think some of the poses actually come with these sort of like forks things that like you can put things. Whatever. Very cool. Then what else do they get? Oh, okay, this is a very cool one. So the Griff Riders. So the Griff Riders basically are these cool new creatures that are sort of a mix between an eagle and a lion kind of creature. Very cool. These are, so in the rules they're tough 3, so they're like bigger than like a horse. I know that here, because the knight is next to it at this scale, it seems like it's quite small, but actually the creature itself is quite big. And these also come like with different options. I think they come with lances. I think they come with lances and halberds. Maybe they come with swords. I don't remember. Banner bearer, musician, sergeant, all the cool stuff. Male versions, female versions, different helmets. Really cool stuff. Cool. Yeah, actually, I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, and then finally, okay, the war wagon. Okay, so this is cool. So, like I said, the Empire has these 5 elements that they follow, and so each so there is this thing in the army of the wagons, and each element gets a different wagon. Well, yes. So okay, so there is a wagon for earth, for fire, for air, for ether, and then actually there is a tank wagon for water, because water is like the engineering part of the thing. Anyway, what you're gonna get is the war wagon. So the war wagon is basically like here in the concept maybe you don't see it so well, but basically it's a wagon drawn by 2 horses, and then on top of the wagon you have soldiers. I think it comes with 4 soldiers and a captain, as always, male and female versions. The soldiers are armed with spears, so they're basically like stabbing downwards, or they come with crossbows, so they can shoot. And yeah, it's basically like a little combat, vehicle thing. Actually, what's cool about all the wagons is in the back, they all have like this little altar that has like a little door. You can either keep it closed and who cares, or you can make it open, and in there you have like a little relic and like some items, and it's like a cool little detail in the back of your wagon. Okay, cool. That's the I think that's it for the Human Empire. So you're gonna have lots of cool stuff. Like I said, 2 heroes, the marksman, the Griff Riders, and the wagon. So that's really nice. Okay, on to the next thing. So, all right, alien concepts. So let me talk a little bit about the alien hives. So, like I said, each month of the alien hives is a double release. So it's quite a big thing. Almost every single unit in the army is being updated in one form or another. I think the only 2 that are not being updated are the spores and the swarms, because we really like the designs and we didn't think that they needed anything changed. So what is different? What are you going to get, and what is different? So I'm going to show you a couple of concepts, and then maybe I'm going to talk about whatever I might be forgetting here. So, all right, one of the big complaints that we had, and that I honestly felt really bad about, is when we made the Alien Hives, we were a much smaller project. We had a lot fewer patrons. We had a lot less money. We had a much smaller team. We had almost no concept art. So we are so we didn't have any weapon options. So each pose just came with whatever weapon it had, and that's it. And also at the time, we really didn't have like a cohesive concept art team. So all the weapons in the Alien Hives right now with the old models kind of look all different, and they don't really make sense. And some look more organic, and some look less organic, and it was a mess. So one of the first things that we did when deciding to redo the Alien Hives was to tackle the weapons and the weapon options. So, as you know, the Alien Hives are a melee focused army, and for our lore and how our models work, and how our aliens work, they actually use these sort of like organic ish. They're not fully organic weapons, so they're kind of like made with organic materials, but it's not like the weapons are alive or anything like that. And so, okay, so they have melee weapons, and they have 5 different types of melee weapons that they come with. On the left, so looking at the top on the left, you can see, I think that's the serrated sword. Then you have a slashing sword. Then you have a piercing pick. Oh god, I don't remember all the names. I'm sorry. Basically, you have the serrated weapon, the slashing weapon, the piercing weapon. Then you have the smashing weapon, and then finally you have a whip. And so the various models that have access to these things will have access to all of these weapons. Now we know that for some of the models, like the warriors, in the old version you had the version with guns, and then you had the versions with melee weapons. But in the rules, you can actually have both special guns and special melee weapons for the warriors. And so this is something that we wanted to reflect in the models, but our models don't have 4 arms. They only have 2 arms because that's the design that we wanted. So you can have the weapons. So the top row, you can see the handheld version of the weapons, but in the bottom part, you can see the arm-mounted version of the weapons. So when you're holding a gun, you can have what I'm calling right now an arm-mounted weapon, and an arm-mounted version of each weapon. So instead of holding a serrated sword, you can have these serrated claws. Instead of having a slashing sword, they have a slashing blade mounted to their arm, which they can attack with. Instead of having a pick, they have these sort of like these sort of like piercing spikes that they use to like stab the enemy. So you can imagine these warriors, like they're firing the rifles, and then they're putting it down. They're smashing someone, or they're stabbing someone. And so this is how you can see them. And then they have a smashing sort of like fist. And then finally, okay, here you cannot see it that well. They actually have a version of the whip, which is basically like retracted inside their arm thing, whatever, and that they can actually like shoot out. So they kind of like shoot out a whip, and then they can like toss it around. You don't see it here in this screenshot, unfortunately, but there are even more versions of the weapon. So for the really big Hive Lord, there's actually massive, really massive, like 2-handed versions of these weapons. So you have like these massive, like 2-handed, like cleavers and stuff like that. And actually, for all of the models which are kind of like the ravenous beasts, so these sort of models that currently have like they have arms which already are kind of like blades or whatever. They look kind of like this. You actually have all of the weapon options as well. So you have smashing claws, and you have slashing claws, and you have arm whips and stuff like that. So lots of melee weapon options. Yeah, very cool stuff. So so every model that right now, that should have access to these weapons, will get in the rules, will get access to these weapons in the models. I think right now in the rules, the names are slightly off, so we're going to go through the rules and rename things so that they make sense. But yes, it's all there. Then, so this was the This was all of the melee weapons, but we also have ranged weapons. So unfortunately, I don't know why I couldn't find a high res version of this screenshot. So we have a low res version, but basically all of the ranged weapons are being updated, and they're all being made to fit the style of the army and to look organic the way that we want to. So here you can see the Ravager gun, which is like the basic weapon of the warriors. This is kind of like a you can see like the weapon is kind of like split in two and basically has all these spikes in the middle, and it kind of like the idea is kind of like that it rotates and fires spikes. That's the Ravager gun. Then we have the heavy Ravager gun, of course, which is the heavy version. Then we have the Ravager cannon, which is the version held um, by the Hive Lord. Massive, massive gun. That's a huge model. I don't know exactly. I think it's like 100 millimeters tall, massive model. We have the Shredder gun, which is kind of their. It's not really a machine gun. Yeah. But the idea, again, it's all kind of like organic. So, you're kind of like holding it like a gun, but then in the back it has like these sort of like egg ammo things in the back. And then when you fire, they have like lots of holes, and they're just like spitting out all of these shredding things. The acid cannon is kind of like it's kind of like an anti-air weapon. Again, an anti-vehicle type of situation. In the back, it has like this big sack of like acid, and so when it fires, it's kind of like compresses, and it shoots a jet of acid across the battlefield. We have more weapons here. We have a barb cannon. The barb cannon kind of like fires these weird, like it has like this sack of barbs that it kind of like projects. Again, like it's not like a shotgun. It's so in our game, this is like what we would define, I think, as like a shred style weapon ish. Basically, it's like really destructive. We have the spine gun at the bottom, which is sort of like a pistol. We have the spitter gun, which is sort of like it has like all these like little, almost like larvae like little things, and it basically fires. I guess it's kind of like a grenade launcher ish. Again, these are all the alien weapons are all kind of funky. I don't think I have more of this screenshot here, but you can see the shock harpoon. This is one of the weapons from the Guardians. They also have another one, a skewer cannon. All of these weapons also have the bigger variants for like a cannon variant for the Hive Lord. And yeah, so the idea here was to make sure that the weapons look organic, make sure that the weapons look kind of like really alien, and that they don't just look like guns, like metal guns. Because one of the key aspects of this faction was the idea like they don't use any metals, so you don't expect any guns, any metal guns. Don't expect any screws. Don't expect any ammo casings, like bullets and stuff like that. And well, and all of these designs are also consistent across the whole faction. So if here you have the sort of like, let's say like the handheld rifle versions of these weapons for the bigger monsters, who have like a back mounted version of these weapons, they're actually following this style. Okay. Then okay, now let's look at actually some models for the release. So each of the 3-month releases will include a bunch of previous models that have some modifications, but it will also include 3 big models which have been like heavily modified or that are being redone from scratch. Yeah. So one of the ones that we worked on was the Burrower. So the Burrower was one of those models where the concept was nice at the time, but the execution didn't really work, and I also like it didn't really fit the style. So we decided to go back, start from scratch, remake the Burrower. This Burrower follows the design of our Ravenous Beasts more, so it fits the style more. It's huge, by the way. The old Burrower is kind of small. This one is really massive, so it's a tough 18, which means it's like 130 millimeters tall. And as you can see, so this is one of the models with those claw arm things. It actually comes with all the various options from the weapons I showed before. So it comes with the standard like claws. but it comes like the serrated claws, it comes with the smashing claws, the piercing claws, the whip claws, and so on and so forth. The whip claw version is actually kind of fun because it's like this huge monster with this like massive like whip arms. Yeah, so that's one of the big models that you're getting. Another one. Oh, let me think. What are the? Sorry, let me double check the. Oh my god, I forgot to put one of the screenshots in here. Sorry. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna show you what I have here. So another one that we have that is being massively reworked is the Carnivorex. So Carnivorex, really cool. It's like our standard, combat monster. That's not like a massive monster. So how is the Carnivorex being reworked? So we actually really like the design of the original monster. We are kind of like sharpening the model a bit more, making it a little bit better that way. We are slightly like modifying the spikes and stuff that it has to fit the new style a little bit better. But overall, the model in its style is the same. So don't worry if you're a Carnivorex fan like me. But what we are doing is we're adding additional options. So in the back, you can now, well, here you can actually see like a little mock-up of the 3D version, but it's going to be better, of course. You can basically like remove the back and you can change from the standard, let's say melee, focused version to a gun version. Again, really focusing on making sure that the weapons look organic and that they fit this style that we have established. So up here you can see the spitter. So this was that one that was kind of like a grenade launcher, and you can see like it really, the weapon really merges with the model. It doesn't look mechanical. It doesn't look made of metal. So yeah, this one's kind of like a grenade launcher thing. You have the barb cannon, which fires like these crazy barbs. You have that sort of like egg machine gun thing as well, which is the shredder cannon. We have a couple more. We have a Ravager version of it that fires like the spikes, and then we have the acid cannon that fires the acid. The other model I wanted to show you, but unfortunately I don't have the. I forgot to put the screenshot in here. I'm sorry. Is the Tyrant? So the Tyrant Beast is one of those models that is being completely redone from scratch. So it's going to look nothing like the current model, and well, it looks really cool. It follows the new style, of the models, and it also follows the new style of the weapons, which you can already see kind of like here. So making sure that they look organic, making sure that they look integrated with the model, making sure that they don't look mechanical or made of metal, or stuff like that. Somebody asked, does the model picture mean that you can swap the weapon on its back? Yes, that's the idea. You'll be able to swap the various options so that you don't have to reprint it 5 times. Cool. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about the Alien Hives before I move on is what other things are you going to get in the June release? So, okay, what we have seen right now was, well, the Tyrant, which we didn't see, but whatever, the Carnivorex and the Burrower. You're also going to get the Swarms. The Swarms, they're not changed. You're just getting the models again. We like them, so we're keeping them. You're going to get a new version of the Warriors with all of the weapon options. The Warriors also, oh, by the way, a lot of the Alien Hives models are being rescaled to fit the new sizes that we use. So you can expect a lot of them to be much bigger. This is actually a complaint that we got with a lot of like the old models, where like people said, well, the Alien Hive Warriors should be really big, but they're kind of like the size of a human, so it doesn't really make sense, especially as a tough 3 unit. So the Warriors are being resized. They're much bigger. They're the size of like an Oni, if you have one of those. They now come with lots of weapon options. They're a crazy kit, actually. They come with lots of guns, lots of melee weapons. They come with the handheld melee weapons. They come with the arm-mounted melee weapons. I think one of the poses comes with a buddy as well. And there's also a special pose that holds the acid cannon, kind of like a rocket launcher-ish. Then you're going to get the shooters. One important thing about the shooters, and other grunts as well, is we know that some people complain that some of the poses didn't properly fit on a 25 millimeter base. They had like a lot of overhang. So we have gone back and we have fixed those poses so that they fit on a 25 mill base. You're also going to get the assault grunts. We did the same thing. We have checked out which poses were not fitting the base, and we have rescaled them, reposed them to fit the 25 miller base. So no more, huge overhang for the alien hives anymore. And then you're going to get the 3 versions of the prime. So you're going to get the prime gunner, which comes with all of the new weapon options. I think the prime gunner might also come with a buddy as well. I know that the assault grunts come with a buddy. Whatever, there's lots of buddies. You get the prime gunner, which comes with lots of like different guns. You get so that's what it's currently just called a prime. It's being renamed to the prime gunner just to make sure that it's clearer. So the prime gunner comes with the guns. The current, I think it's called the whip prime, is being renamed to assault prime, and this one is going to come with all of the handheld melee weapons. So the whip and the sword, but also the smashing club and so on and so forth. This serrated thing, the pick, whatever. And then finally the winged prime, which it's the winged prime. You know it, but now it comes with all the different options. So it comes with the guns, it comes with the melee weapons. These kits have an insane amount of options, and also just like the warriors, which have been scaled up, the primes have all been scaled up. So that's lots of models. You're basically getting 1, 2, 3 heroes. Then you're getting 2 units of grunts. Then you're getting a unit of warriors. Then you're getting the swarms. Then you're getting the burrower. Then you're getting the carnivorix, and then you're getting the hive tyrant. So, crazy amount of stuff that you're going to get. Cool. All right. And then finally, okay. Whew, I went really fast. This has been a lot of work. I know that for some people, I know that for the cynical among us, when we said, "Oh, we're re-releasing the alien hives," they think like, "Oh, we're just," some people are always very negative and they say like, "Oh, you're just cashing out, you're just giving us models that are already done," but there is a lot of work that is being done here, and once you get the kits, you're going to see. So like, for example, the alien, like the prime gunner in the old version, it's just one model. It has no options, no guns, and now it has like a ton of guns, a ton of different options. It has a buddy, the wing, the what are they called? The warriors are crazy. They come with so many options. I can actually tell you the warriors come. So if you're using the modular versions, the warriors come with 121 pieces plus 31 combined versions. So lots of work, lots of options. Oh yeah, also quick aside, just because we're kind of crazy, because in the rules the warriors come with wings as well. You can upgrade it to wings. We're also going to get winged versions of the warriors, and and they're being added for free. So one important thing. So I know that I'm talking about the release and how things are being released and whatever. Make sure to go on our Patreon, check out the roadmap post where we literally explain like what are the models that are being re-released, what are the ones that are just being enhanced, what are the ones that are being reposed. Everything is there. Everything explained for people that are patrons, for people that are non-patrons, for people that already own the old models. Everything is explained there in detail. So yeah. All right, let's move on to the last concept preview, which is the... Okay, so this is the Robot Legions. I think this is called the Great Wraith Seer, which is basically like a new version or like an alternate version of the Great Wraith. Huge model. This is a legend as always, so you can expect it to be massive. Comes with a cool, like, funky base. This is a really cool one. So it has like lots of different, like, I think it has 4 legs. Oh god. 5 legs? 6 legs? 6 legs? Okay, don't quote me on that. Just check out the art better than I can. Comes with this big swords. Has like these relics. This cool thing on the back. Really big model. Really cool model. If you liked the old Wraith, Great Wraith, I'm sure you're going to love this one. Yeah. Someone had asked. By the way, I had seen someone ask this, so I wanted to already address this. Someone had asked, like, "Oh, why are we going back to the Robot Legion?" So, just to clarify, when it comes to legendary models, when it comes to loyalty rewards, um, we only have so many factions that already have designs. We are not going to be making legendary models or loyalty rewards for factions that haven't been released yet, because we had some people ask, like, "Oh, why are you releasing a robot legendary when you could be releasing a, I don't know, an orc legendary?" It's like, well, we don't have the faction finished. That faction has not been figured out. Has no concepts and whatnot. So, we're not going to make legends for those models. And also, we are trying to make sure that we go back and we kind of like balance the amount of really huge models that each army gets, because I know that right now some armies have more than others. So for instance, I think like the Saurians are the big ones. I think they have like five legends, or like five huge models, whereas like most factions right now only have two. So basically, well, every faction that has two, we're going to give one to them until they have three, and we're going to keep doing that until like all the factions are caught up, and all the factions have more or less the same number of giant models. Okay, cool. All right, I was seeing if there were any questions here from these things. Seems not. Okay, cool. All right. Nice. So let's move on to how are we on time? Okay, we're actually. I thought this was gonna be faster, but I think I spoke a lot about the Empire and stuff and whatever, buddies. Okay, let's move on to the last part of the stream, which is the Q&A. All right, so this time we didn't get a ton of questions, so I'm going to go through the questions, and then I will answer stuff from the chat for a bit, but I also don't want to drag this on for too long. Okay, so question number one: what would you consider to be the art style of One Page Rules? So the art style that we are going for in terms of illustrations and stuff like that is a well, it's a sort of, let's say, painterly style. I really like a painterly style. I feel like it when you can really like when you have these epic paintings where you can feel the brush strokes, where it's not perfect line art with perfect coloring, and then like a lot of effects and stuff like that. When it has a texture to it, I really love the feeling of texture. So I guess with the art style that we're going for is painterly. I would say that's the OPR art style. Um, Regarding Age of Fantasy Quest, will we be seeing characters that can double up as hero units in Age of Fantasy armies? So, I guess this is a question not just for Quest, but for other things as well. So, our plan is not to have named characters in the army lists. That is not how we do things. That's not what we want to do. It just leads to bloat and it's weird and whatnot. Who knows? Maybe at some point we might make like a separate army book that contains heroes. I'm not really sure about that. I don't really like the idea that much. But the idea for us is that if we have special heroes, special characters that are released as part of like a campaign, or for Age of Fantasy Quest or for the other games. So for example, like we already have two narrative campaigns out. So we have Jacob and Kari, and then we have Misha and stuff like that in the other campaign. I would love to eventually like release models for those, but the rules for those characters are only contained within those campaigns, and usually they're just like more general special rules that kind of like apply to the missions of the campaign, as far as I remember. So, do the characters double as units, as heroes for the AOF armies? Um, yes and no. So you can, as always, like if we make a model for a special character, you can use it as a hero in your army, but you're not going to have rules in the army book for that character, for that named character. um Okay. With the release of Grimdark Future FTL, has there been any discussion or planning to expand this into the fantasy sailing fleets realm? So, yes, I would love to. Well, first, I think we're going to rename the game from FTL to just Grimdark Future War Fleets. I know FTL has caused some confusion, and so that might be nice. And then we would also love to make a fantasy version called Age of Fantasy War Fleets. I think that would be very cool. That being said, we run regular polls every twice a year, I think, um, where we kind of like gauge interest for various games. And honestly, the interest for a fantasy sailing game is quite low. And as OPR has grown, and everything that we release is much more complete, making any new game that we make is a big commitment because it means making the core rules, it means making all of the armies. It means making having an app, like having an app integration for the army. It means making the expanded rule book. It means making the advanced rule book. It means committing to making art. It means committing to making models eventually, and so on and so forth. So, whilst I would love to do it, we have other priorities. I'm not saying no. I'm saying not yet, but we have been thinking about it. Have you thought about supporting official files for tabletop simulators? This is a question we get every now and then. It is something we've thought about, but honestly, just it's a whole thing. Again, like everything we do now, um, it's bigger. It's not just like, oh yeah, take some files and upload them to tabletop simulator and goodbye. Like it's a big thing. We require we require dedicated people on our team to work on that. We require planning. It requires special preparation of files. It would require moderation. It would require continuous updates and so on and so forth. Troubleshooting, blah blah blah. And I'm going to be honest, we are so focused on so many other things that are much more core to our business, and that also fans are more um, are more excited about. And also, let's be honest, things that also provide revenue for us, that us making official files or DLCs for our tabletop simulator. Right now we're just not going to do it. um, who knows, maybe at some point in the future, but we would need to be really we would really need our team to be big enough where we can kind of throw away, I don't know how to say, where we could kind of just say like, hey, let's just hire like a small team and throw them at the project and see how it goes, and not have to worry about how that impacts the entirety of the business. Yeah, maybe if one day we're that big, we can look into it. um mm, 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 mm. Okay, this is interesting. Somebody asked, "Why did you announce third edition if you have no intended release date?" Well, I we announced third edition because it's in the works, and we know that people are excited about it. And we had already been talking about third edition for the last year and a half. So whilst it was something that we announced for the first time on the stream, I suppose, or in more detail, it's something that we've been discussing for a very long time. Why the no intended release date? Well, for us, we're only going to release something when it's ready. That's it. So I don't want to tell you like, hey, the game is coming out on the 30th of May. If I don't have the game ready right now, where I can guarantee that it's coming out then, I don't want to give a date. That's why, generally speaking, we always just say that things are released when they're ready. So yeah. Again, I'm hoping that it's released within the next couple months, but I have no guarantees that I can provide. Oh, somebody asked about this. Hive City Gang. Leaders don't have equivalents um, for certain gangs. Same thing for Havoc clans for fantasy. So why are the rules missing for certain gangs for the leaders? This is due to skirmification. So basically, due to the way that skirmification currently works, some of these Hive City Gang leader hero upgrades are too expensive to properly fit within the size of skirmish. That being said, we are working on a new way to calculate things and skirmify and whatever. and make and further help out. Further, how would I say this? I'm looking into improving how certain elements that are currently problematic in firefight and skirmish work, and I'm looking into like reworking those, including like hero buffs and spells and stuff like that. So right now they're not there because of skirmification. It's just too expensive to be in the game. But it's going to be fixed in the future. Um, mm, 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 mm. Okay, will we see any new sculpts added to the Alien Hives in response to recently announced addition to other Alien Hive models? No, there are no plans for that. It's just too short notice. It's just too short notice. The Alien Hives are, so just to give you an idea, the Alien Hives are coming out in a month, which means we are currently needing to like finalize the models, prepare the supports, prepare the renders, everything we need to release them. Releasing new models now that the team is much bigger, and everything is much more complex, and the quality has gone up, and all that stuff. Releasing new models is not that simple. We can't simply say, oh, okay, somebody's releasing models that we want to make a proxy for, and today I'm just going to take some of our concept artists away from the things that are currently working on, make concepts, then take away some sculptors from different projects to put them on sculpting, that allocate. It's a mess. It doesn't work like that. So we don't have any plans to add more Alien Hives models than we currently already have uh, in the previous releases. The only new thing, I guess, is the Devourer Titan. But yeah. Okay, so here's a lore question. So, what are void gates and where did they come from? Are they pre-existing gateways that are open, or new ones created by the factions? What are their origins? So, um, void gates come in different forms. It's so there are void gates that you can find in the wild. So sorry, what are void gates? Void gates are basically in the world of Age of Fantasy. Void gates are basically these sort of portals that you can use to travel between between different locations, like various long distances, but also to travel between different planes of existence. Void gates can come in many forms. They could be of any size, truly. A void gate could be the size of a coin, like it could be the size of a building. Where do they come from? Well, some of them are just found in the wild, and some of them are found already, sort of like stabilized. So one thing that wizards can do, and with some sort of technology as well, can be done, is stabilizing a void gate. So void gates are usually kind of like, some void gates are stable, so they're there and they just work and that's it. But some void gates kind of like collapse or emerge, so they're a little bit like they're a little unpredictable. So usually factions and wizards and engineers and whatever, depending on the faction, get together to stabilize these void gates so that they can ensure that they don't collapse, and that they can have like a permanent point of travel. So some void gates are just found in the wild. They're just randomly there. Then there are void gates that are stabilized by the factions. Then also through different means of magic and or technology, void gates can be generated, but it is very difficult. Um, and finally, there are also void gates that are stabilized in the wild. So you can find, imagine like there was an ancient civilization that had stabilized a void gate, so you can go and find that stabilized void gate and use it. Yeah. So yes, are they pre-existing or new ones? Both. They're pre-existing or new ones. Okay. Will we get some orc paper models for Grimdark Future in the future, like the ones that aren't available anymore? Will we make the old orc designs available? So, sorry, basically it's about the paper models. So the new way that we're doing the paper models is that they're based on the 3D models. We're doing this for consistency, of course, because we want to make sure that the look of our armies across all of our product lines works and makes sense. We don't currently have any 3D print orcs, therefore we don't have any 2D print orcs. Are we going to make orcs in the future? Yes. When? I don't know. But once we do them, you will also get paper models for them as well. Oh, this is an interesting one. How long does it normally take your team to conceptualize an army from the time? How long does it normally take your team to conceptualize an army to the time it is released in miniature form? Okay, so let me think. So if we start with an army, doing an army overview can take, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks. That's the first step. So we make the overview. Then we go through an exploration phase of the army, where we're kind of like just seeing like different different elements. What is their style like? What are their assets like? What are their symbols like? What are their shapes? What are important caveats and whatever. That can take another week to do. So we're already like 2 weeks in. Then once that is done, we go into the designing of the first unit. That usually takes about a week, and that's a collaboration between concept team and the sculpting team. So we concept the anatomy. The sculpting team makes the first block out of the anatomy, and then with that block out, we actually start working on like concepts over the anatomy to make sure that it kind of fits. Then we do a block out of that concept of the armor, and once it all fits, we kind of like have the beginning of the first unit. So that takes like another week-ish, let's say. This is, of course, assuming no delays and no nothing. So now we're already 3 weeks into it. Then we go into something that we call like the lineup phase. So basically, at this point, we kind of do like a very rough, very rough concept of each unit in the army, like all units in the army, so that we can kind of like put them next to each other and have like a full lineup of the army. So we can see the whole army in one place, and we kind of see like, okay, what elements from one unit can relate to the other? How can we kind of like make sure that it all looks consistent? Which units maybe like we realize that don't look enough like the rest? Which things don't make sense? Which things do make sense? Stuff like that. So let's say that can take another half a week to a week. So now we're already like 4 weeks in. Then we go into the pre-concept phase. So the pre-concept phase is basically we spend about 2 weeks actually making a rough concept, a rough, but already going towards a finalized version of each unit in the army. So that takes about another 2 weeks. So now we are already how many weeks in? Sorry. Overview. Overview, exploration, first unit, lineup, pre-concept. So we're already about 5-6 weeks in. And then we go into the actual concepting and sculpting phase. So these can be kind of like working in parallel, but assuming, again, it also then depends on how many concept artists are working on it at the same time. But let's say it could take, so an army takes, an army is usually 30 to 35 units. Five, again, assuming we have 4 concept artists working on it, let's say it's gonna take like another month and a half to do the concept. So now we are ready. Sorry, we were at 6 weeks plus another 6 weeks, so we're at 12 weeks in. And then at this point, we would start with the sculpting. And then for the sculpting, again, depending on how many sculptors are working on it, but let's assume we have 4 sculptors on it. It would take another. Doing the math. It would probably take another 12 weeks. So in total, we're looking at 24 weeks. So around 6 months. This is, of course, assuming that everything is happening. So this would be assuming a team of around roughly 4 people on it, and assuming that things are happening sequentially. So if things are kind of like happening at the same time, so whilst the first concepts are done, the sculpting already begins, and this of course gets shorter. But I would say, yeah, it doesn't take anything less than, God, At least, like, if everything went perfect, it would take 4 to 6 months. God, 4 months is already super optimistic. Let's say 5 to 6 months to complete an army. From all the way from initial concept to all the models are done. And I'm actually not counting the additional stuff like but okay, that's smaller stuff, let's say, and it's done by parallel teams. So like bases, game aids, the terrain, the legendaries, the loyalty rewards. Then of course we have all of the sculpt, all of the supports. Then we have all of the renders. Then we have the illustration team. Then we have the writing. It's I'm gonna be honest, it's a huge thing by now. But yeah, let's say 5 to 6 months to go from beginning to end. Okay. Anything you can hint at when it comes to small scale adaptations of the games, mainly Grimdark? Um, so we have already spoken about Grimdark Commander and Age of Fantasy Generals. Really love the idea for the games. I had made like a super rough sketch beta for it a long time ago that I had kind of like thrown out there. But we just have other priorities. I have no hints that I can give you. So we have been working on the models, but the rules I haven't worked on them in a long time. And truly, I feel like I need to kind of focus a bit down and like, okay, let's actually get FTL out the door. Let's actually get quests out the door, and then let's look at small scale. Um, Fortunately and unfortunately, so to say, the company has grown a lot, which is very cool in the sense that we get to do more stuff and bigger teams and higher quality and so on and so forth. But it also means that everything has become more complex. Everything has become much more complex. Um, so things take a lot more time. When it was just me, just coming up with some random rules and just throwing them out in the internet and then like constantly iterating on them, it was one thing. But now it's very different. Especially because there is such a huge audience. I can't just make a random set of rules anymore, put them on the website, like, hey, here on the official OPR website, here you now have access to the small scale games as a V1 beta or whatever, I don't know. And now we have like thousands and thousands of people that download and play them. And then, like back in the day, I was updating the rules on the weekly. Um, you can't do that with the large audience like this anymore. Yeah. So yeah, no news. Sorry. Um. Okay. Okay. Two questions from somebody here. Are there any plans to change skirmification process to have more attacks or wounds on the models? No, we don't want to change it. So one of the things that I want to maintain and I think is really important for our games, and especially how simple they are and how they work well, is that the rules for the various games are kind of analogous. So if I am used to playing my Saurians in the big, a big Age of Fantasy Battles game of Saurians, I know what the stats of each model are. And if I then go and play the skirmish version, this sorry, the stats are exactly the same. The number of attacks are the same. The number of wounds are the same. Wounds. The toughness number is the same, and so on and so forth. The cost even like match, and that's very very important to maintain the easy transition between systems. So there are no plans to change in the amount of attacks or toughness that units have. Um, for the skirmish games. And then the second question was, is it possible to show all results of voting for painting contests? No, that's not really something that we're interested in. Yeah. Okay, and then the last question, is there a place for official translations for the rules and units in the future? Not yet. We are not that big. And again, like, okay, I feel like I might have already spoken about this. So if we want to do translations, official translations, it's not that simple. Number one, we have to choose the number of languages that we do. Well, let's say we do the standard languages, right? So it's usually like German, French, Spanish. Um, I think those are the most popular. Italian. Those are the most popular languages usually to translate into. Sometimes I know that people do like Polish, because wargaming is quite big in Poland. Um, and but that's about it. But okay, so let's say we choose these 4 or 5 languages. Okay, for each language, we need to make sure that we have at least one translator, if not two, because of the amount of content there is. And we need to make sure that they are doing the translations correctly, which means we need to have a translator, and then we have to have an editor that knows how the games work, because you're not just translating one to one. You need to understand the translation. You need to understand, you need to that there is a context that can change how a rule works if you translate it slightly differently. So we would need like an editor as well. Now we have what, like 5 languages, so let's say that's about a team of like 2 people per language, so we're looking at 10 people. Then we're going to need at least one person, if not two, that are supervising this team of 10, and they're coordinating the whole team. So now we're looking at a team of 12 people. And then we're looking into like, how do we format it? Where do we host it? How do we communicate this properly? Where is it placed? How do people find it? How do we deal with feedback? How do we constantly improve them? And so on and so forth. So it's a huge endeavor. I know that from the outside it seems like, oh, just translate the rules, whatever. But if we want to do it properly, if we want to be the professional company that we want to be, we need to do things properly. And to do things properly means big teams, lots of money, lots of effort. And unfortunately, the reality is that it's just, we don't have the resources for that. We don't have the time for that. And it's just not a priority, I guess. It sucks. I get it. It sucks. Um, Fortunately for us, we have on the forum people that are doing fan translations, and that's very, very cool. And we'll do whatever we can to support those people. But if I'm trying to be very realistic about it, I don't see us doing official translations anytime soon. Okay, cool. So these were all the questions that I got in the thing. All right, let me jump in back on the Q&A chat here. Let me see if anybody asked something, and then we can wrap up. So, mm, 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 mm. When will we allow third parties to access Army Forge? I assume you mean Army Forge Studios. So third parties are already having access to Army Forge Studios. All of our partners are already there. They're already working on lists for their armies, and they will be released ASAP. Another question: why are rerolls so scarce in OPR? Will third edition change this? Generally speaking, no. I'm not a big fan of rerolls. So one of the things about OPR and why OPR tries and hopefully manages to be such a quick and fun game is that I try to reduce the amount of rolls you need for everything that you do. That's why we only have a hit roll and a defense roll. We don't have a wound roll in the middle. That's why we don't have then like a ward save and then another save and then another save. That's why cover is a modifier rather than additional roll and stuff like that. And re-rolling is essentially like, I would rather give a modifier of -1 to hit and then you roll once than to make you re-roll sixes or whatever, or re-roll ones, and then you have to roll twice, because every time you roll it takes additional time. So I remember this when like I was first starting to make the games, and I was really thinking like, okay, how do I make these games that are fast and simple and so on and so forth. And I kind of analyzed. I remember I was playing the games and I was timing all of the various steps that you would take, like, how much time are you taking thinking, how much time are you taking rolling, how much time are you taking measuring, how much time are you taking moving, and so on and so forth. And what I remember, I mean, this was almost 10 years ago actually, but what I remember is that the two big things that slow down war games, aside of course from like checking rules and thinking and whatever, is rolling and moving models. So those are the things that take a lot of time, especially because rolling can be messy. like I don't think we really take that into account, but like, you know, a lot of times like you have to go and pick the right amount of dice and you roll them, maybe you're rolling them on the table, and now maybe like some of them are cocked, and now maybe one of them threw over a model, and now maybe one of them threw over a tree. Now you have to reposition things, and now things take longer. So re-rolls, removing re-rolls is part of that. There are some places where there are re-rolls in the game. And I actually think in third edition, yeah, the way that poison is changing, it's going to be essentially a reroll. But yeah, overall, I would love to. Well, I would love to just remove all rerolls, truly. But yes, there are no plans to add lots of rerolls to the game. How about another hint about the next sci-fi army? We were working on the buddies for the army today, and let me say that they have shells. Maybe this is a hint. Um, mm, 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 when is the buddy war rules coming out? I don't think we're gonna make a game about buddy war, but who knows? I think it would be cool if every now and then, I don't know, like we could throw out some special games. Again, it's about time and investment and stuff like that. But like, it would be very cool if it would be like, oh, like, hey, here's like a special mini game that we made for April Fools, where you know you get the buddies from all the armies and you make them fight. Yeah. What would be a fantasy FTL? Would it be boats or blimps, airships, and dragons? I suppose it would really depend on the factions. Most factions would probably be looking at boats and ships. And then I like if I'm really trying to do like a comparison to FTL. In FTL, you have the small, medium, and heavy ships, and then you also have the squadrons. And I think that's actually where with fantasy we could do some really cool stuff where you know you could have ships, right? The small, medium, large ships, and then of course for some factions, you know, the ship is a blip or whatever. But I think with the squadrons, you could do some really cool stuff because you could have like you know squadrons of like eagles, or you could have squadrons of you know, for maybe like the deep sea elves, right? They could have squadrons of I don't know sea snakes. You could have squadrons of you know the dwarves have like these little helicopters, or you could have dragon riders or whatever. So I think that could be a cool way to do it. Any updates on Grimdark Future FTL out of beta or small scale games? I think FTL is just going to remain on beta for a bit until we are currently working on the app integration. And I would rather just keep it in beta on Patreon for a bit until that is ready, and then once that is ready, release it out. I have no ETA, but it's also cool that we have it there, and it's kind of like a closed thing, and we can gather feedback before it goes out to the big to the website and the big public. Small scale games, yeah, I talked about it before. There are no nothing's there. Let me see what else. Okay, I think. Oh, okay, wait. We have some more questions. Do the sculptors work on physical sculpt, or is it all digital? It's all digital. Somebody's asking about orcs. There are no plans for orcs right now. Okay, I see somebody posted a two-parter. I would like to see more getting started stuff. Fixed units, blah blah blah, ready-made scenarios. Okay. Okay, so the plan is to release new getting started, quick start, whatever sets with free models every 6 months. You can expect the format to be about what we have right now, so with the little like 5 tutorial missions and stuff like that. But I don't know that. again, like doing these things is a lot of work for not necessarily maybe that many people actually using them. So I don't know how much more work we can put into making bigger and more complex sets. Could be cool. Having like further, it could be really cool to have like a very, very well made quick start set with like lots of pictures and example plays and stuff like that. But again, it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work that we just that's just not currently the priority. One thing that I think we would be cool and we want to do is release more campaigns and stuff like that. Because I feel like the campaigns are really that sweet spot between like you're playing the game as intended and whatnot, and you're having a fun experience, but you have that like, okay, kind of like pre-made scenario, and the pre, like, hey, here's how you should set up your terrain, and here's like the armies that we recommend for this scenario and stuff like that. And I think that's really cool for like starters, and unfortunately, yeah, right now we only have 2 campaigns out. So yeah, Quest ideally is going to be very good for that, because especially because you're playing solo or co-op, it's really, really friendly for you to like open up a quest and set it up as it says, and just kind of play with your own time and at your own pace, without being pressured. So I think in a way, I could imagine like the ideal pipeline, so to say, for like true like beginners would be that, where it's like you start playing quests and then you say, okay, let's try to play some skirmish, and then you go, okay, and you play the full games. That would be very cool. Anyway, I'm not sure if I answered the question. Blah 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 blah. Any plans to make separate mission cards for skirmish games? Not right now, truly. It is something I've thought about, but I think I would rather do this like as a. So, sorry. It's already late. I'm kind of tired. The mission cards right now are very old, and their style is very old. And as we are moving forward, we are going to be updating the look and feel of everything. We've already updated the website. We're slowly updating Army Forge, and so we're also going to be updating the PDFs and the rulebooks and so on and so forth. And then we're also going to update the mission cards. And I think once we do that, sure, it could be interesting to make, because I think there's just a few cards in the mission card pack that don't work that well for skirmish. So I guess it could be cool to do that. But actually, here's the more interesting thing. So we are going to be releasing a new version of the mission card rules. This was suggested by some fans, which basically have like a small like deck building element, and I think that would be really good for like the skirmish games, because it's like, okay, you just pick the ones that make sense for your army at skirmish scale. Yeah. Okay. Blah 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 blah. Have you ever thought about simplifying movement in your games, like only move a squad leader in a range? Blah blah blah. Sorry. Yes. It's in advanced rules. Check it out. So we have some. We have a page about. I think it's called the apocalyptic sized games. Massive games, apocalypse games, I don't know, whatever. We have rules for like playing really big games, and I actually would kind of like to rename that, kind of like move it around to make it easier. But yeah, we have a lot of different like modifications to like how movement works, how measuring works, how shooting works, how melee works, um, that make the game faster, even faster. And actually, like, I really love playing like that. Just, you move the leaders and then you arrange models around them, or instead of measuring from every single model, you measure from the closest models, and then you assume that all the models are measuring from there, and so on and so forth. And there's lots of little ways that you can speed up the game. So it's already there. Check it out in the advanced rulebook. Blah 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 blah. Okay, there's lots of combo about buddies. Are the alien hives at peace with the rest of the factions, but about to have a civil war? No, no. There's nothing about that in the alien hives lore. Whatever happened to the battle report thing? I'm not sure what that question means. We do have some partnerships with different YouTubers. We have a partnership with Hans Wargaming, and they just released a battle report, an OPR battle report, a couple days ago. So check that out. Do you have any favorite armies so far for Grim Dark Future and Fantasy in terms of background aesthetic of the released miniatures? I'm a big sucker for Saurians. So I guess I love the Saurians and the Saurian Star Host. But I love the Jackal. Oh no, wait. Because I was gonna say, oh, but I love the Jackals, but I also love the Ratman, but I also love the Sisters. I kind of love them all. I think they're all very, very cool. I don't really have favorites, so sorry. Any news on the Vanguard program or tournament packs and rules for OPR? No news on that. We have been focusing on other things right now. Blah blah blah. Have you thought about updating the play token files? They're kind of meh. Again, I would love to update all the files and all the old things, and we're going to work on that. So at some point in the future, yeah, could be cool to make new play tokens. I think they're fine. They're not amazing, but they're fine. Yeah, I guess it's about like style. As we are moving away from the sort of like comic book style that we had before, they start making less sense with the new stuff. Okay, last question for tonight, because this is already longer than I thought it would be. Is there anyone writing proper lore novels? No, we don't currently have anyone writing novels because it's just too early. So like you have to understand that whilst we have all of this lore set up and like lots of things for it, this is still the very, very beginning of lore for OPR. And we want to kind of like ease people into the lore and slowly introduce things and slowly establish things and also slowly keep developing it. So we're not currently writing any books, but we are writing short stories. So like I said, the idea is to release 2 short stories per month. And who knows, maybe like at some point we can do like a little compendium of like short stories that you can download somewhere and then read whatever 10 short stories in a book or whatever. But yeah, there are currently no books being written, and I would imagine that it would take quite a while before we get to the point where we have enough established. We have enough that has been established at the depth that I would like to be established for a novel to work. Oh wait, so the person clarified. What happened to the big cinematic battle report teased at the beginning of this year? So the editing process has been much longer than we thought it would be. I have talked to the producers a couple of weeks ago, and it's hopefully being released soon. But the editing process, yeah, took a lot longer. I think they might be doing some small reshoots. I'm not sure. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just taking longer than we thought, and I don't have any more updates. When it's ready, the usual. Okay, guys, it's already been 2 hours. We're already half hour over what I wanted to be. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And yeah, I think that's it for now. I will be posting the stream on the website soon with a link to the Q&A for next month's, for this, for the next stream. And yeah, if you want, I'll be on Discord for a while, chit chatting, so you can find me there. And yeah, thank you for joining, and until next